YWCA's 150th anniversary coincides with this nation's transition into a brand new political landscape. And Tracy has shown you snapshots of the YWCA over the past 150 years. And as we mark our 150-year milestone, which is actually today, in this new political context, we stopped to take another snapshot of women today through our National Women's Survey, which we call What Women Want. We've captured the views of women across generations and across race on several issues. It was a phone survey of a representative sample of 1,000 women across the United States from ages 18 to 70, and this age range represents 4 generations. The survey findings represent views of women during a period of heightened social consciousness and historic political energy. It was conducted 1 week before the election when discussion of national issues dominated the media, and particularly the state of the economy, and we scheduled it to be completed 2 days before the election so that responses were not influenced by the outcome of the election. We particularly wanted to understand how generations of women from each across generations differ from each other in their thinking about what the priorities for the new administration should be. And we also wanted to know what they think about issues of racism and other forms of discrimination. Our goal of this research was to learn about the youngest generation of women in particular, so that we can make sure that we are working with them and for them. And just like we've made it our business to understand each generation of women for the past 150 years, we want the YWCA to be just as relevant and important to this new generation of women. The results gave us some very interesting insights into the ways that Generation Y, women who are age 18 to 29, are different from their older sisters, mothers, and grandmothers who are age 30 to 70. First, Generation Y women are very different from all older generations of women in their level of concern about civil rights and racial justice. If we lined up 100 Generation Y women across the room right now, 77 of them would say that civil rights and racial justice should be a top priority of the current administration, and that of the new administration rather, and that it should be addressed in the first year of the administration. And only half of older women feel that way. Younger women, or these Gen Y women, consider racism in the United States a more serious problem than older women. Of those same 100 young women lined up across the room, 42 consider racism against blacks a very serious problem in the United States, compared to 24 out of 100 older women. A very similar difference between young women and older women exists in the way they view discrimination against Hispanics. On a more personal level, women of Generation Y report experiencing discrimination on the basis of gender, race, ethnic background, and physical appearance at the same level as baby boomers, women ages 44 to 62. And in fact, Generation Y women are more likely than baby boomers to say that they faced discrimination based on age and religion. These strong views and experiences of young women about racism and discrimination are very surprising, because these are the women who are the beneficiaries of the civil rights struggles of previous generations. And you would think that these women would not be as concerned about these issues, but in fact, this generation of young women is thinking more about these issues than any other group of women. Secondly, Generation Y women appear that they are going to be more demanding of the new administration than older women. Significantly more young women want several other issues to be top priorities in the first year of the administration, of the new administration. Among these priorities are healthcare reform, education, the housing crisis, and the AIDS epidemic. Now, just to be clear, women across all ages agreed that these issues were important, but for the new administration to address, but significantly more young women want these to be top priorities to be addressed urgently within the first year. We also asked about issues that keep women up at night, ones that they worry about. And strikingly, if you line up those same 100 women, young women across the room, every third woman says that she worries about violence against women, either about being a victim or knowing someone who is a victim. This compares to 1 in 4 older women who have that worry, and which is still very high, but just not as high as young women. In addition to the differences between Generation Y women and older women, we also found some striking similarities in what young and older women are concerned about. Women in the survey were asked what barriers they saw as the greatest obstacles to their progress over the next 10 years. And women of all ages are concerned about the financial crisis in the United States, and they fear the possibility of unemployment. And they all believe that these 2 issues pose the greatest barriers to the progress for women. And in addition to the financial crisis and unemployment fears, over half of all women across all generations identify the same obstacles at the top of their list, including lack of retirement savings, major illness or medical expenses, cost of college, lack of affordable and accessible child care, and unequal pay. Now, interesting differences between the views of Black women and white women were identified in the study. Black women identify the same potential obstacles to their progress that white women identify, but there is a difference in the degree of impact that these obstacles will have on them. Significantly more Black women view nearly all of the potential obstacles as having a more extreme impact on their progress over the next 10 years. Black women and white women have different views on the impact of sexism. Black women express that sexism poses a greater threat to their progress. If you lined up 100 Black women across the front of the room, 45 feel that sexism will negatively impact their progress over the next 10 years, but only 19 out of 100 white women viewed sexism as a threat at the same level. These are just a few of the findings of the national survey, and I encourage you to look at the key findings handout that is in the press packet, as well as the full document. But overall, the survey results reveal many of the hopes embodied in the views and voices of women today. President-elect Barack Obama described the audacity of hope in his book about reclaiming the American dream. We believe that our survey shows the audacity of hopes that young women have for the nation as well as for themselves. For instance, when young women express a greater concern than older women about racial discrimination and that it should be a top concern of the new administration, they hope to see an end to racism once and for all. And when 1 out of every 3 young women say that they worry about women being victims of violence, they hope for a day when no woman will have such fears. This survey also revealed that women recognize the transformational power of their hopes and they take due credit for the advances of women in recent decades. But one thing that nearly all women agree on is that the continued upward trajectory of women's progress depends on the public will of society as a whole, not just women.